Welcome in Chiefs Kingdom to Chiefs Latest, your one-stop spot for everything Kansas City Chiefs in 15 minutes or less. It is your host, Calvin Silvers. Happy Thursday, Friday Eve, as I like to call it, and I hope everyone is enjoying their day. Minicamp wraps up today as well, so we have a lot to talk about in this episode. But before we dive into today's episode, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and make sure you turn on those notifications, as it not only helps me and the channel, but it's going to help you stay up to date with everything Kansas City Chiefs. As I mentioned, another action-packed episode, so let's go ahead and jump into our first topic, Jair Alexander. Now, I mentioned that the Chiefs might have a chance to sign him on a one-year deal and bring him to that secondary that wouldn't mind a little boost this season. However, he is going to a different AFC team as he signed a one-year deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, this is definitely an upgrade over Brandon Stevens for the Ravens, and it makes their top 10 defense one of the AFC's scariest now. And the AFC always known for having scary defenses. The Ravens always known for having a scary defense. Once again, they're just proving that point. As I mentioned, he signed a one-year, $4 million deal after the Packers released him. And I mentioned that that would be the way that the Chiefs could have brought him to help with that secondary. They would have had to sign him to a one-year deal around that same price range. And it seems that Jair felt a fit with Baltimore. So looking at that lineup now, you have Nate Wiggins, you have Jair Alexander, you have Marlon Humphrey, you have Starks, you have Hamilton. Not a bad secondary there. Now, why does this matter? Well, of course, the Chiefs are going to face the Ravens in Week 4, and that could be an AFC Championship preview. So a lot of eyes are going to be on that one, and Baltimore's has been tough, whether it's been the regular season, which we saw with Isaiah Likely barely having his toe out of bounds, or even the 2023 AFC Championship, where the Chiefs won 17-10, and the defense really had to step up in that second half. Well, if you're looking at what Alexander has done, well, 31.9% on tight window throws forced since 2018. That's top 5 among cornerbacks. Humphrey is second in that same category, and Awuzie is 5th. So you have 3 players in your secondary that rank in the top 5 there. Ravens, as I mentioned, were the 10th overall defense, coming in at 320.4 yards a game. And this is where it gets scary because they were 31st in pass defense. So not very good at all, but this is going to help them. And now they are something to have on the map and be worried about. Added a new secondary coach as well. Starks, as I mentioned, drafted to help fix that pass defense. So not only did they know that they had to get better and they made the right moves, but now bringing in Alexander is just going to make them that more dangerous. And of course, in the division, all you really have to worry about is the Bengals and Burrow. 4,300 yards and 35 touchdowns, but their secondary wasn't very good either. So the Ravens offense could offset that. So just going back over my opinion here, I think Alexander improves the secondary and will help improve their pass defense from last season. And while I think Denver is the team to watch out for in the AFC West, I think if we're looking at the entire landscape of the AFC, I think the Ravens now are the scariest. All right, I want to go ahead and talk about the O-line. I know I've been talking about them a lot, but they have been an issue, and only good news coming out of minicamp right now. Trey Smith, Josh Simmons, and Mitchell Schwartz. That's right. I said that name. Your ears aren't going bad. I did say that name. And why is he there? Well, he's helping out. And I just think that this O-line's future just keeps getting brighter and brighter. Trey Smith, as I mentioned, showing up to minicamp, not having a long-term deal, and Mitchell Schwartz mentoring Josh Simmons right now. I think that's just going to help this Chiefs O-line, and I think that sets them up for success. You have Simmons' coachability under Schwartz's wing. It just shows that he's ready to claim that starting left tackle spot. He doesn't want to sit behind and get mentored. He wants to go now. He's taking all that he can in right now. So this matters because the Chiefs O-line, it did struggle. We've been talking about that, especially in the Super Bowl last year. Mahomes was sacked 6 times. So now we have Smith's leadership, and now we have Simmons' rise. It's crucial for that entire O-line for 2025. And this just talks about the Chiefs' culture. You have vets coming back and giving back, not withholding secrets. Giving all the tips and tricks that they can. That sets KC apart from other teams in the league, and probably why they've had so much success in previous seasons. As I mentioned, I've been talking about the O-line, but if you haven't been paying attention, let's go over what's been going on. Trey Smith signed a $23.4 million franchise tag, no long-term deal, but he's still attending minicamp. Josh Simmons is your first-round pick from this year's draft, and he's ahead of rehab from his 2024 injury. And then, as I mentioned, Schwartz was your 2016 to 20 Chiefs right tackle, and he's just at minicamp helping Coach Simmons, being a voice for Simmons, and just giving tendencies about what not only on Mahomes, but just what he can expect from quarterbacks. So when looking at Smith, an 82.4 PFF pass blocking grade allowed 1 sack and over 1,115 snaps last season. Simmons had an 83.7 PFF college pass blocking grade at Ohio State. When looking at Simmons and what he's been doing so far in minicamp, Andy Reid has said that he looks strong and that he's jumping in those team reps. Simmons has said that Schwartz tips on Pat's moves has set him up for the correct angles. He's now learning what angles can I take or what angles are better than others. He has to compete with Jalen Moore, as I mentioned, free agent signing for the Chiefs for that left tackle spot. But just the advice he's getting, the way he's jumping in reps, the way he's been getting earlier reps, it's huge. So going back over Smith's all-in vibe, you have Schwartz's guidance. This just screams O-line excellence. And not only that, Simmons is showing that he can be coachable, and I think that will allow him to lock down that left tackle position very soon. And he just wants to keep Mahomes safe, as we all want to keep Mahomes safe. So Chiefs past, Chiefs future, it collides once more, and I think the Chiefs are ready to roll. And speaking of people that need to be ready to roll, I have some names. And I need to know what you guys think. Do we think that these three people could have a breakout season? That's right. I got Sua Mataia, I got Hicks, and I got Enudike Uzama coming up. Breakout or bust in 2025? Well, if we're looking at Kingsley Sua Mataia's move to guard, and then Jaden Hicks should take a leap from last season, I think those two could be breakouts. I think those two could have a breakout season. Now, Felix Enudike Uzama, this is a make or break year for the kid. And I think if it's a flop, I think we have to label it a bust. And I think Ashton Gelati is waiting to try, and I think he would be the next guy to look at. But going back to Suamataia and Hicks, I think they are and can be a part of the Chiefs' future. And once again, Felix needs to prove that he's not a draft bust, especially when you lose players like Justin Reed, Sean Wharton. You want to see these guys rise up to the challenge quickly, sooner rather than later. Suamataia was benched at left tackle. Of course, they were moving a bunch of pieces around, so they moved him to guard towards the end of the year, and he feels more comfortable at guard. Jaden Hicks was a rookie last season, competed for that safety role besides Brian Cook. He ended up with a couple interceptions, was looking good last season. And Suamataia came out with a 63.3 PFF grade at guard. So obviously needs improvement. He's not quite there, but he fell in that average category in that start there at guard. Hicks, 3 interceptions, as I mentioned, 31% snaps played, 72.2 PFF grade last season. And Enudike Uzama, 2.5 sacks, 14 pressures on 27% of snaps played. That was 332 total last season. So Suamataia and Hicks, especially with Hicks as Spags schemes, loves those versatile safeties, and he shows that he's a playmaker. I think those two are ready to have a big year. Enudike Uzama, you got to produce, or I'm going to say it was a bust. And last but not least, will Rashee Rice avoid suspension in 2025? That is the question, and just a rumor, but likely going to avoid suspension in this upcoming season. Yes, that's right. The NFL holding off on suspending Rashee Rice in 2025. It's a huge win. Let's be honest. It's a huge win for the Chiefs because it's going to keep their wide receiver room elite and have depth there. You got Rice, Worthy, Brown, Royals, and you need that, especially after talking about secondaries like the Ravens. So, yeah, Rice has got to stay clean, but Mahomes is ready to get back on work with his top target. They're ready to get back to dominating. So what happened, if you don't know, Rice is facing 8 felony charges and up to 3 civil lawsuits from a 2024 hit and run, but none of that's led to a formal charge yet. However, the NFL does wait for the court resolution. but the Chiefs just need that wide receiver depth. So if we're just keeping our fingers crossed that he can avoid the suspension. Played 4 games before a knee injury last year. Full recovery expected. Mahomes says he looks explosive during OTAs and mini camp. Reed has said that Rice is back on track. In 2023, had 79 catches, 938 yards, 7 touchdowns in 16 games. Last season, as I mentioned, got hurt, but 24 catches, 288 yards, 2 touchdowns in 4 games. And then looking back at that 2023 playoffs, 26 catches, 262 yards, and a touchdown. So this is obviously someone that you want to be able to throw out on the field at all times. So as I mentioned, just a rumor, but it is likely that he will not be suspended, but the NFL policy delays discipline until legal outcome. And once again, you need him. You need him when you're going to face secondaries like the Ravens in week 4, and then you have some other noticeable defenses early in the season. So not having them out there early would hurt the Chiefs a tad, especially on the offensive side. So getting him and keeping him and avoiding that suspension would just be in Casey's best interest. All right, that was Thursday's episode. As mentioned, we have episodes daily. That's right, Monday through Friday. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on those notifications. That way you're not missing any of these videos. And go ahead and leave in the comments what you thought about today's episode, and especially about the 4 topics. What do you think about that new Ravens secondary in the Chiefs? Will they be able to overcome that in week 4? Talk about the offensive line of how you think the progress is coming along. Is it a break or bust for those 3 players I mentioned earlier? Let me know. And Rashee Rice, do you think he will avoid a suspension in 2025? As I mentioned, my name is Calvin Silvers, and until next time, have a good one.